the age of 15, I was a competitive swimmer, swimming twice a day and then also doing a lot of dry land and weights and running activities. All of a sudden, we noticed that I started to gain a lot of weight and have a lot of swelling. And that's when my parents took me to the emergency room. They noticed that I was spilling a lot of protein in my urine. And then on top of that, my creatinine was elevated, noting that there was issues with my kidney, and I was diagnosed with FSGS. I had about 50% of both of my kidneys working, and I had no clue that even I was being impacted with something for quite some time before we even uncovered it. I didn't know what was going to come of the diagnosis. I thought that maybe I would just miss a few days of school, take some medicine, and be on my way. Little did I know that it was going to be a lifelong diagnosis that I was going to have to live with. Unfortunately, at that time, and still at this time, there is no cure for FSGS. They did mention that transplant is ultimately inevitable whenever you are diagnosed with FSGS, and it was just a matter of time. But we had the outlook to do whatever we could to save and preserve my kidneys for as long as possible, because nothing lasts like your own. It was my senior year of college when we started to see a big decline in the function of my kidneys, and my body just didn't feel as strong as I used to feel. I always knew in the back of my mind that transplant was going to be inevitable, but it became apparent during that time that it was the time for me to start to explore options. I worked with a really great team that always did their best to explain to me what was going on. They spoke to me on a human level and not as a patient, and that really helped me to be able to navigate the journey and have confidence and understanding with what I was about to go through. Leading into my first transplant, I had to start hemodialysis for a short period of time before I was able to receive that kidney. In September of 2003, I got my kidney from my dad. This first shot of life, I was expecting confetti and miracles to come out of this first transplant, and that is not at all what happened. There was a lot of complications that came out of that transplant, one of them being disease reoccurrence immediately. I remember being very swollen. My skin was really tight and stretched. It was uncomfortable, and that kidney lasted me about a year and a half before I was told that I was in kidney failure again and I needed to explore a second kidney transplant. Knowing that I had to face another transplant at such a young age was really tough. My family did a great job of encouraging me and do my best to feel as normal as possible, which I think helped me to be able to have a really strong mindset, again, facing this next challenge. My aunt was able to be my donor that second time around. So I was like, oh, this is going to be great. She and I have always had a bond. I just felt like the stars were aligning. However, when I did get her kidney, I constantly ran into chronic rejection issues. I went through monthly treatments and then oftentimes ended up in the hospital having to be on plasmapheresis and a whole protocol of medications to help combat rejection issues. I had her kidney for about 10 years, and then eventually my luck ran out and it was time for me to explore a third kidney transplant. The idea of a third transplant was met with a lot of fear and trepidation from me. I started peritoneal dialysis, so if you saw me walking down the road, you would have no clue that there was anything wrong with me. I still maintained all of my activities. I went to yoga every day on dialysis. I worked. I was like, do I really need a third kidney transplant, or can I just live on dialysis? But I also thought third time's a charm, and we went through the matching process. After about a year on dialysis and waiting for a kidney, I got a call that they had a potential match for me. It was an anonymous donor, and it felt like a miracle was teed up for me. I was so excited to go into surgery, and I was so excited to get this kidney. And I remember waking up from surgery, they asked me, "How do you feel?" And my response was happy, because I knew that this was it. They always say with kidney transplant, you never know how terrible you felt until you get to feel good again. I don't take much for granted. I wake up every day and I'm like so grateful that I make my own pee for the longest time. I'm on like what I consider a normal regimen. I have not had any intravenous drugs since my third transplant, as like any sort of interventions to help to mediate any sort of rejection or FSGS like reoccurrence. It's been pretty dreamy. I'm here to make an impact, and I'm here to like keep on crushing life and accomplishing my goals, because there's so much out there. I felt like I've been in survivor mode where it was just like, let's just keep going, keep going. This journey is tough. You have to remember that it is okay to rest. It's not okay to give up. And there's going to be a lot of challenges that you are faced with, but what's to come on the other side of all of that is so beautiful, and it's well worth every heartache, every tear, every bit of the way.